Once upon a time, in a village nestled between misty mountains, there lived a young scholar named Marcus who believed he knew everything. His home overflowed with books stacked against walls, piled on tables, scattered across the floor. He had memorized 1,000 poems, studied every philosophy, and could recite the wisdom of sages from memory. People traveled from distant lands to hear him speak, marveling at the endless knowledge that poured from his lips. Yet Marcus was miserable. Despite all his learning, he felt empty inside. His relationships crumbled because he was too busy correcting people to truly hear them. His students memorized his words, but never seemed to change. And late at night, when the books were closed, a gnawing feeling whispered that something essential was missing. One day, an old woman arrived at his door. She wore simple robes and carried nothing but a walking stick. "I have come to teach you," she said. Marcus laughed. "Teach me? Good woman. I have studied for 30 years. I can tell you the meaning of life in 7 languages. What could you possibly teach me?" "Then humor, an old woman," she smiled. "Share tea with me." End quote. Reluctantly, Marcus agreed. He led her to his study, still talking about his latest theories, as she quietly prepared the tea. Finally, they sat down, and she began to pour tea into his cup. The tea reached the rim. She kept pouring. It overflowed onto the table. Still, she poured. "Stop! Stop!" Marcus shouted, jumping up. "Are you blind? The cup is full. No more will fit." The old woman set down the teapot and looked at him with eyes deep as ancient wells. "Like this cup, young scholar, your mind is so full of what you already know that nothing new can enter. How can I teach you anything when there is no room for learning?" Marcus froze. In all his years of study, no one had ever spoken to him this way. I don't understand," he whispered. "That," she said gently, "is the first true thing you've said to me. Come, let me show you something." She led him outside to the village well. A group of children played nearby, laughing and chasing each other without purpose or plan. "Watch them," she instructed. Marcus watched, impatient at first. But gradually, he noticed something. The children weren't thinking about playing. They were simply playing. Their minds weren't full of rules about how joy should work. They were empty, open, receiving each moment as it came. "A child's mind is like an empty cup," the old woman said, "ready to be filled with wonder. But your cup overflows with yesterday's tea, leaving no room for today's." Over the following weeks, the old woman gave Marcus strange lessons. She asked him to sit by the river and think of nothing, to walk through the forest without naming the trees, to listen to people without preparing his response. It was the hardest thing he'd ever done. His mind rebelled, constantly filling with thoughts, opinions, and knowledge. But slowly, painfully, he learned to let them go, to create space, to empty his cup. One morning, Marcus sat in meditation when a villager burst in. "Master, my son is terribly ill. Please, your wisdom, what should I do?" The old Marcus would have immediately quoted medical texts and ancient remedies. But this time, he stopped. He emptied his mind. And in that emptiness, he truly heard the Father's voice, not the words, but the fear beneath them. "Sit with me," Marcus said simply. They sat in silence. And in that silence, the father's panic began to settle. He remembered that his neighbor was a healer. He realized his son needed calm presence, more than frantic solutions. The answer came not from Marcus's knowledge, but from the space Marcus created by emptying his mind. The father left with tears of gratitude. The old woman, who had been watching from the doorway, nodded. "Now you begin to understand. An empty mind is not an ignorant mind. It is a ready mind. All your knowledge is still there, but now you can access it wisely, because you are not drowning in it." Months passed. Marcus continued his practice of emptying his mind. He discovered that the less he clung to what he knew, the more he truly understood. Students began to transform under his guidance because he finally had space to see who they really were. His relationships healed because he could listen without his mind preparing arguments. One day, the old woman prepared to leave. "Where will you go?" Marcus asked. "To the next person whose cup is too full." She smiled. "But remember, this is not a lesson you learn once. Every day, every moment, you must empty your mind again. Knowledge will always try to fill it. Let it come, but let it go just as easily." "How will I know if I'm doing it right?" Marcus asked. When you stop asking that question, she laughed and disappeared down the mountain path. Marcus returned to his study, looking at all his books with new eyes. They were treasures, yes, but only when he could read them with an empty mind, letting wisdom flow through him rather than accumulate within him. He picked up his teacup, emptied it completely, and smiled. Ready, at last, for whatever the next moment would bring. A mind too full of what it knows has no room for what it needs to learn. True wisdom comes not from how much you know, but from your ability to empty your mind and truly listen. Like a cup that must be emptied to receive fresh tea, we must release old thoughts, rigid beliefs, and endless mental chatter to make space for new understanding, genuine connection, and real growth. Remember, the wisest person is not the one whose mind is most full, but the one who knows when to empty it.